Hello, I'm Dennis Pullin. One of my favorite parts about being president and CEO of Virtua Health is getting to know our colleagues and the many ways they are here for good. Each person contributes to healthy communities, and each person has a story to tell. Let's meet one. Boomer, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Glad to be here.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Inside edition of Here for Good.
Yeah, not sure how I ended up here, but Chuck texted me one day and I said, all right.
But you're here, so we'll make the most of it. So first of all, I'm told that you are a true South Jersey native.
Yeah, never thought I'd end up back here. I grew up over in Marlton. Actually, those rinks right over there, I grew up playing hockey at, and then ended up in Maryland for undergrad, Raleigh for med school. Thought I'd keep going south, but somehow Jersey pulled me back in.
South Jersey is a great place to raise a family. You have kids?
We have one right now, so I go by Boomer, but I'm Steven Janssen Jr., so he's Steven Janssen III. We've been calling him Trip.
So Trip, where'd Boomer come from?
When I was born, I came out at 10 pounds.
Wow, fullback.
Yeah, basically, and I continued to grow from there. When I was about 3, my babysitter started calling me Pork Chop, and that caught on like wildfire. So my mom had to step in one day and be like, anything Pork Chop, I can't have this. And ended up with Boomer.
And it stuck. So you mentioned your son, and you mentioned hockey.
Yes.
Will you teach your son, or would you encourage him to play hockey?
He already has a little Flyers hockey stick, but he seems to like it so far. But yeah, he'll definitely be on skates.
So you have a love for the game, but do you have a history with hockey that you play at a competitive level?
So yeah, I grew up playing ball hockey next door over at the rinks. I played for Cherokee, the high school in the area, and then I played at Salisbury University for
in Maryland.
Yep.
Yeah, know it quite well. So is there any connection between the skills you learn for hockey and the skills you use in emergency room?
The biggest thing probably is the work ethic it needs. I mean, whereas hockey, like if I'm willing to grind it out and try a little harder and like really kind of work and try hard, I mean, I can compete. And I think in medicine a lot, like it seems like it's all like, oh, these people are smart, but like in med school, it's really just like a stack of pancakes you got to eat every single day, and every day you got to show up and be willing to do it. And I think just that instilling that every day, like showing up to work.
But even showing up to work, you also have a team. So tell me a little bit about your team in the emergency room at Voorhees.
So I love it. Now, I rotated through there in residency. We did Voorhees as senior residents going through there, and the group of nurses are awesome. It's things like just kind of flow easily. You get along with everybody. Nobody's like upset when you're asking them to do X, Y, Z. It's really different vibe than the academic settings I was at previously.
Oh, yeah. And I know many of the colleagues over there in the emergency room, and I know the interaction and the relationship that you have. But you also have a unique presence with your patients, so much so that you prefer they call you Boomer as opposed to Dr. Janssen. Why the informality of Boomer as opposed to doctors such and such?
My dad grew up in sales, and when growing up, I'd go when they had kids, I'd go to the dinners with them, and he always kind of told me like life is as formal as you make it. And my kind of theory, as far as like introducing myself, is like, yes, I'm a doctor. I worked really hard for it. I'm blessed to be where I am today, but when it comes down to it, it's just a job. I don't call my plumber O'Connor.
Plumber Dennis.
Yeah. I don't call like my accountant, I don't call him by like CPA this. Like it's, yes, I'm a doctor, but like a doctor I like to think doesn't define me, I guess is the word. And I don't want to kind of intimidate somebody by being like, oh, I'm the official doctor. Like,
so you use the breakdown barrier.
Yeah, I wanted to start casual, kind of make it more of just a talk with somebody that's trying to help rather than like a doctor-patient relationship.
And I think that works because you being in the emergency room, you get people when they're coming in at their worst.
On their worst.
And so you try and alleviate some of the anxiety by being approachable.
Yeah.
Is that part of what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, you're getting people who are stressed out, upset, in pain. And I think a big part of that is kind of immediately coming in and trying to make it calm that stress down a little bit so we can kind of get down to what we can do to help.
You mentioned sort of being relaxed and sort of leaning back. I don't know if the cameras can get a shot of this, but no, I'm not your father. You don't have to sit up straight. But I don't know if they can get a shot, but you also have a reputation for wearing some pretty interesting footwear.
Yes.
Can you put one of those up on the table?
Sure.
There you go.
So these are not the originals, unfortunately. The pump doesn't actually work. They re-released them a couple years ago.
So what's the story behind the colorful, interesting footwear?
So this is just kind of a way to make your personality stand out a little bit. I always joked growing up, we had these things called Heelys that had a wheel in the back. I always had a dream of wearing those, but I just figured that would be a little too unprofessional across the bridge, and I'd end up in a hospital bed myself probably. But it's just a way to kind of stand up, show a little personality. I always wear like the socks too. But yeah, it's just a little way to kind of show some personality.
And again, back to your comment about being approachable and sort of alleviating some of the anxiety and some of the barriers between you as a physician and the patients, because I would think as you do that and as the patient become more comfortable with you, it helps in your ability to assess and really treat them.
100%. It kind of breaks that ice of like, oh, this is somebody I might be able to relate to. Like, it's not just a robot who's here to diagnose and treat me.
So I'm sure you're aware that Virtua now have an academic affiliation with Rowan, and we participate in the teaching and training of the next generation of clinicians. If you had an opportunity to speak to a class of physicians or soon to be physicians or physicians in training, what advice would you give them?
You're never but a phone call away, or in our case at Voorhees, we always have other doctors around. Like, there's always somebody to lean on. There's always somebody to ask questions to. Never feel like you can't ask a question. Never feel dumb for asking a question. And then the other one, kind of going back to what I was saying, like it's only a job. It doesn't define you. Like my dad used to always tell me, you can be the smartest guy in the room. You can be the best at your profession. Nobody wants to work with you if you're a jerk. So it's just kind of be understanding of your colleagues and if your nurses and your techs. If people are going to make mistakes, people are going to forget that you asked them to do X, Y, Z, and just kind of be understanding, try to work with people, try to be nice to people. Everybody wants to pull in the same direction.
Emergency medicine, it's an intense, high energy, also an area where there's a tremendous amount of burnout. How do you address and avoid and speak to the toll that it takes on an individual working in such an environment?
When I come in on shift, my goal is to get the person who's there out as soon as possible. And so that really being willing to help your colleagues take on a little bit extra so they can have some time home with their families. And then B is trying to keep everything in perspective. We get caught up a lot of times and I think it's just human nature, in the negatives of things. Like, people just naturally remember the bad, don't remember the good, and really trying to hang on to the good things that do happen. Like, every once in a while you will get a win, and really focusing on those wins and realizing you're not going to fix the entire healthcare system on your own.
What was it that drove you to emergency medicine? Because we see right now the latest numbers are saying that we're challenged to get physicians to go into emergency medicine as a specialty. The numbers aren't as high as they have been historically.
So I think it was probably two things. One, just being like the overall breadth of it. I mean, it's everything. You come in, you don't have no idea what's coming in. You're constantly challenging yourself every day. And then B, from the moment you walk in the ER, everybody knows each other by first name. I've been working at Virtua now for 2 years. I could name you everybody in the ER. The friendliness, the relationships you build, it's just different than anywhere you get in the hospital, because what you go through together, seeing things, and then B, you're always with each other. You're face-to-face all the time. There's no texting. There's no phone calls. It's that face-to-face communication and relationship.
And those relationships are really important, because for many of our patients, the emergency room is the front door. It's where they enter our system. And so how they are treated there sort of sets the tone for them, for their entire experience throughout our ecosystem. So it's important that what sort of drives you and your colleagues to want to work in that environment. I can't thank you enough for the services that you provide and the way you respond to our patients, and sort of the standards that you set in terms of delivering healthcare. That is why you're here. You said you really didn't know why you were here. You're here because you inspire others to be here for good. you are here for good. So thank you so much for what you do.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words.
It's always a pleasure to speak with one of our outstanding clinicians, as I have just done. Tune in next time for another great edition of Inside Edition.